Hi everyone, my name is Maddie and I'm a psychotherapist at My Therapy NYC, and today we are diving into a topic that is often overlooked but incredibly important, and that topic is emotional neglect. So we're going to talk about what it is, how it affects us, and what we can do to help ourselves heal. And we will also talk about how, with the right support, healing from the trauma of emotional neglect is possible. So to start us off, I want to talk a little bit about what is emotional neglect. So emotional neglect is a form of child neglect where a parent or caregiver really fails to meet a child's emotional needs. So these needs might include love, affection, attention, validation, and support. And unlike physical neglect or abuse, emotional neglect often involves what doesn't happen, like a parent being emotionally unavailable or even dismissing a child's feelings. It can be active, such as when a parent belittles or criticizes a child, or it can be passive, like when a parent is distant or unresponsive emotionally. This absence of emotional support can be just as damaging as more visible forms of neglect. And healing trauma from emotional neglect often starts with recognizing these patterns. So, what does emotional neglect look like in everyday life? I have a lot of examples. So, this could look like ignoring or dismissing a child's feelings as unimportant, failing to show affection or comfort when a child is upset, not listening or taking a child's concerns seriously, having overly critical or constantly putting a child down, having unrealistic expectations that the child can't meet. And I'm really talking about like things that are developmentally unrealistic expectations for where a child is at. Being emotionally distant or emotionally unavailable, or, if it's a situation where there are siblings, favoring one child over another can really create feelings of rejection. And these behaviors send the message that the child's emotions don't matter, which can really deeply affect their emotional development and create a trauma that often carries into adulthood. So your next question might be, how does this show up in adulthood? The effects of emotional neglect don't just disappear when a child turns 18 or a child is able to care for themselves independently. Many adults who experienced emotional neglect as kids really see challenges in their adult life, and that can look like low self-esteem, feelings of inadequacy, difficulty forming and maintaining healthy relationships that have a high level of reciprocity, struggles with emotional regulation or expressing feelings, difficulties trusting others, or sometimes we'll see a tendency to self-blame or a feeling of emptiness or loneliness. And really, a lot of this can add up to an increased risk for mental health struggles like depression, anxiety, maybe even sometimes substance use. So, for example, some adults become people pleasers and will prioritize other needs in order to feel worthy themselves. And usually that comes at a cost, including neglecting their own needs. And that might look like self-neglect, right? Others might avoid intimacy or struggle to ask for what they need emotionally in their adult relationships. And these are all like kind of big signs of unresolved trauma from emotional neglect. So what do we do with all of this? I mean, the good news is that healing from trauma, from emotional neglect, it's possible. And therapy is a really powerful tool to address the wounds created by emotional neglect. And there are a lot of different types of therapy that you can try out. So individual therapy, we can look at relational therapy styles such as AEDP. We can also look at trauma therapies. For example, EMDR can be a really wonderful tool to address perhaps more acute moments of neglect earlier in your life. I think group therapy can also be a really amazing tool to have a healing experience and create like really strong, healthy emotional bonds, especially if you can get yourself into an interpersonal style process group. You can really use it as a lab to learn how to create strong, healthy, emotionally caring relationships and even experience receiving care from other people. And lastly, family therapy can be a great tool. Sometimes this can be difficult, but really addressing with your parent or the person who you experienced neglect from. It's not always possible, but trying family therapy to heal some of those wounds and rebond can be really powerful as well. So therapy can be so helpful to rebuild emotional awareness, find self-compassion, trust, and heal these things which are often damaged by neglect. And, healing through trauma is a process, but with the right support, it's something that is absolutely achievable. So beyond therapy, there are, other ways to support your healing journey from the trauma of emotional neglect. And I think the biggest one that I can think of is building healthy relationships in the present day. So whether that be just friendships, romantic relationships, chosen family, surrounding yourself with people who validate you, support you, are there to meet your emotional needs, that can be such a corrective emotional experience and can really lay the foundation that was missing in your childhood to continue to have more healthy and fulfilling relationships in the future. Practicing self-compassion, so practicing kindness towards yourself, especially when old wounds resurface, right? Rather than rejecting those parts that feel wounded, bringing them in and showing them to your adult self can be really powerful. In addition to these two things, I think mindfulness practices and self-care can be incredibly healthy and healing as well. If our bodies feel good, our minds feel good, this can be an incredible way to just allow additional space for that healing to take place. And also just remembering that healing from trauma takes time and patience, and it's about learning to meet your own emotional needs in order to create a sense of a fulfilling life. I wanted to thank you all for taking the time to watch this video. And if you have any questions about this topic or about healing from trauma and emotional neglect, please feel free to leave a comment or reach out to us. And for more information, check out our website at mytherapynyc.com. All right, thank you guys so much. Bye.